This is Average Sports.
By your average guys.
Eric.
And Ty.
That
would be so bad.
Yeah. This is Average Sports.
Your average sports.
Average Sports.
Thanks for tuning into another episode of
You're listening to Average Sports with your average guys.
Average Sports, average guys, Eric and Ty.
We are back and kind of like sports, just slow out the gate. It's Eric and Ty, another episode of Average Sports with your average guys. Boy, glad to have you guys tuning in here, but we're excited. We got a lot to talk about, mainly with some sports that are actually happening. And Eric, are you feeling it? Are you excited? Like, tell us how you're doing over there.
I mean, I'm doing good. I'm super excited. We have officially, as we're recording this, live sports on being played here in the States. The MLS is back tournament has officially started. With the Orlando City versus
I got
Inter
a button
Miami.
for that. Wait, no, there it is. Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So I'm super excited about that. But before we get into that, as always, we have to cover who our butthole in sports is. This week, as much as the reason we're not talking about him is super disgusting. He is a Philadelphia Eagle, so I do get a little bit of pride in that. But Deshaun Jackson is our butthole in sports this week. If you don't know what he did, then feel free to look it up on your own. But
it's a lot to unpack there. It was a pretty crazy thing. You actually had to tell me about this whole thing that was going on. It flew past my radar. But yeah, crazy. Interesting approach, but yeah, you got to give it to him. Butthole in sports right there. Who's not a butthole is actually just $500 million richer. We're going to talk about old Patty Mahomes here in a second. What else, though, is happening in sports with a little week recap? We just mentioned MLS, that tournament beginning. Who is kicking off Orlando City and Inter Miami? So they're playing down in Florida, which is a kind of crisis zone then right now, right? Or are they playing in host cities?
They're playing in a bubble city, which is Orlando.
That's right.
So they are playing at the same venue that will be hosting the NBA come later this month.
Right.
So NBA teams have even started to get to town and kind of get set up.
Right.
Obviously soccer and basketball don't play in the same facilities, but they're playing at the same area there at Wide World of Sports in Orlando.
That's
They kicked it off tonight. So I'm super excited to have it back. There's two teams. One team officially is not going to be playing. That's Dallas. They had 10 players test positive for COVID and one coach. Wow. And then Nashville is up in the air. They haven't officially announced it, but it came out today that they had 9 players test positive, with an additional 4 coming out positive today. So Nashville is probably going to back out of this tournament as well, too. And then in some other news, the Ivy League will not be playing sports this fall, and they will reevaluate in the winter.
Wow. So changing gears, to NCAA. So is it easy to say then we should see other conferences follow suit?
I think it's very, very possible that we would definitely see other conferences follow suit, not only with the ones up there in the Northeast or that, the Ivy League is a pretty small geographical conference. So I think those small geographical conferences that happen to be in hotbeds are definitely prone to getting this, or ones that may be spread over very large, widespread geographical areas that may have a few hotspots and then may also get it. So if I were to bet, I would think those smaller ones, especially in the Northeast or kind of in the mid Northwest, I think those ones would be the first to fall. The last would fall, I think, would be, of course, like the SEC and, the Big 12 and stuff like that, because, they want their money.
Right. We know why. You don't have to go into too much detail on that one, Eric. But what else is happening in terms of the pandemic? There are headlines about MLB teams now and hockey. Seems like a lot of clubs are starting to come up with some positive cases. I'll be interested to see if that has any kind of effect on their schedule right now. But anytime you look at things, especially with MLB, it's just that the schedule is out. Camps are going on. People are practicing, but Man, it's just like it feels like a no-win situation still for some of those sports that are just wanting to get on track.
Yeah, I mean, it could, NHL is still to decide host cities, although, we originally had recorded and said that Vegas was a shoo-in. Vegas has really jumped up with, being a huge hot spot with people in the hospitality industry.
Right.
I mean, it's looking like it's leaning towards
Canada,
Toronto, and was it Calgary or Vancouver?
I thought Ottawa.
I know Toronto was now one of the favorites. I don't think Ottawa was even one of the cities, but I could be mistaken. Okay. But either way, it's now completely shifted. Like the favorites look
north
like they're going to be and north of the border in Canada. So, we'll have to see, what happens with that. It sounds like they got a few more things to work out, CBA wise on what they're going to do to play this year. But, hopefully we'll hear some news about hockey here soon. But yeah, I mean, it seems like we got these announcements and, we're getting excited, but then we're starting to see some positive tests come up and some players pull out, and
it's one step forward and two steps back. But my favorite thing to see in sports right now was the robots in attendance for the Japanese Baseball League. I think that was awesome. They're really cool robots. I recommend looking up, seeing what those guys are doing. And I mean, I guess it's a step above the sex dolls in South Korea. So I don't know. Different.
Definitely a step above.
Now, something else, though, that I heard the Oakland A's doing, that you can pay money and get a cardboard cutout of yourself. Have you heard about this?
I have.
Okay.
It wasn't just the Oakland A's that I heard it from.
Are other teams doing this?
Yeah, I can't remember the other specific teams, but I did hear that it was, that season ticket holders could pay to have a cardboard cutout of themselves put into their seats.
Yeah. And if a ball hits you in the face, they will ship you the foul ball.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So anyway,
it should just be hit you, period, not just in the face.
Well, maybe, but
yeah.
Either way.
Cool.
So that would be I think I would do it if the price is right. I'm not a season ticket holder, but if they're opening it up to anyone, I mean, I might do it, especially if there's a good cause involved, or just to support a team. But
I think it'd be cool. And then we have there's one more thing I want to talk about before we jump into the topic here, and that is Raheem Mostert. He is officially requesting a trade as of today. He was the lead back there in San Francisco after some of the other players in front of him kind of went down. Matt Breida was always kind of an injured guy.
Right.
Tevin Coleman didn't start the year fully healthy. But just a general, really quick stat I want to throw out there. Raheem Mostert's always been incredibly efficient with his carries, and especially, in the first 40 games when he was very much a committee, he had 271 snaps, 645 yards. That's a huge efficiency right there. Had 2 touchdowns. In the last 9 games that he played for San Francisco, 277 snaps, 760 yards. So he had a huge jump there, and then 12 touchdowns.
Yeah. Wow.
He's being paid as a special teams player. And so he definitely wanted to restructure his contract. And after long talks with San Francisco, it sounds like it's not going to happen. And San Francisco just traded away Matt Breida as they were then trying to lock up Mostert. And they may end up having to ship both of them away and then just rely on Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon, who's still injured and I don't think has been fully cleared to play, and Jeff Wilson. So news from the NFC champs out there.
That's too bad, especially since it's well past the draft, but maybe there's some unsigned free agents they could look at or figure something else out. But yeah, I mean, the guy stepped up, so you'd think you'd want to throw the guy a bone and if you want to keep him on the club. But hey, that's sports sometimes. So what else on the other end of the spectrum? Mostert's not making enough. Someone is getting paid in the NFL, and that name is Patrick Mahomes. Well, you knew that he was going to get some money, of course. Super Bowl champion. But this deal, dude, Eric, you got to tell us, how is he getting the most money ever in NFL history by a long shot? Every other contract ever has paled to this one. What's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs, I think, really realized that they needed to step up before he hit free agency. because, someone of his age and his caliber, there was really no question that is he number one or number two in the NFL quarterback wise? And then there's a large gap to like number 3, 4, 5, and so on. A little preview to something we have a little later in the episode for everybody.
Yeah.
But there's a huge gap once you get past 1 and 2. And the age that Patrick Mahomes is and what he's proven in the years, 3+ years he's been in the NFL, is that he's able to get this done. And quarterbacks demand a lot of money. We're looking at a player, and Dak Prescott, who held out, and then eventually signed his franchise tag, but he's going to cost Dallas a ton of money, a lot more than what he should have if Dallas had just done the right thing and signed him 2 years ago and not had to worry about this. Dallas had their own issues with Zeke and Amari Cooper and all that kind of stuff with contracts, but this is what happens if you don't, if you get down to the wire, it's going to be a lot worse, I think, for the Kansas City Chiefs. And they did, in my opinion, the right thing when it really comes down to it, is they signed a player that's obviously a franchise player. He's going to be with them for 10 years. And, he's going to, not only bring in a ton of revenue for the Chiefs, but he's going to keep the Chiefs very competitive for, the next 10 years. Obviously, health withstanding. I think that goes with everything in the NFL. And, you sent me the numbers, like something like $477 million of the $503 is guaranteed. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of money guaranteed for a quarterback.
That is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. It's over 10 years. It's $47.7 million a year that he's going to be making.
I want to stop you actually right there and think about how much money this really is. If he's getting $477 million at this point, he would be 184th in the top nation's GDP of the world.
That's crazy.
One person.
Wait, the nation's GDP or world GDP?
Well, the nation. So he would be 184 out of all the countries in the world.
Oh, okay.
He would take over the place of the nation of Tonga, who has had Olympians. He would have more money than their GDP.
That's crazy.
I feel a little jaded about that. I will be honest. I think that's absurd amount of money for one person to play football. How do we justify this?
Well, what do you mean justify this? How do we let this happen as a society?
I guess so. I mean, is football this necessary for a person to make $500 million over 10 years? It's crazy, right?
I mean, to people that don't have the money, then, it's definitely arguable that's the case. The discrepancy in the highest paid players in the NFL is very large from the lowest end.
Sure.
We see quarterbacks in particular have really long careers, especially the good ones are the ones that we hold on to. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady's and Drew Brees, are he's 43 and Drew's like he's already just turned 40 or he's 39.
Right.
Those guys have been around forever and they've made a ton of money.
Yeah. And all of
the NFL player.
It's easy to ask too.
2.5 years.
Sure.
And makes nothing and doesn't get health insurance at 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Because they didn't complete their full third season. Being on a roster, I mean, the money that they make and what, health really costs them at the end is definitely arguable that, it could be worth that kind of money. Now, in proportion to what the NFL makes, this is peanuts. There are teams that made, close to $1 billion last year in just revenue. Sure. And that was in 1 year, not over 10 years.
Sure.
The NFL is an incredibly lucrative business. And, just the revenue sharing that they did last year, I'm looking for the exact number because I did have it pulled up. Oh, here it is. This was 2018, so it did go up in 2019. I couldn't find those exact numbers. But every year, pretty much since 2011, with the exception of 2015, NFL teams' revenue sharing increased from $163 million in 2011. Last year, or 2018 season, every team shared an additional $274.3 million between each other.
Wow.
That was in 1 year.
Wow. That's a big jump.
That was just shared. That's the shared, revenue that all the teams have. And then on an individual basis, you have teams at the top. Dallas Cowboys made $950 million last year. The lowest end team